Hello, na wasalimu nyote ya mjambo. Mnaendeleaje na siku hii mnaendelea kuwa namna gani? Nadhani kwamba mko salama na neema ya Bwana inaendelea kuwa nasi. We need to thank God for what he has done for us. Asante sana kwa wale ambao wanapenda kufuata maneno ambayo tunaongea, na kama umeguswa, tafadhali jaribu kugusa hapo chini, you like, you comment and you share to your friend. Don't leave the message to go unshared, sababu wakati ambao tumefika na wakati wa mwisho, na sisi tunafaa kushare what you have received. For whatever you have, that is what you need to share to others. Katika quarter ya hii, kwa wale ambao wanafuatilia the quarter, the lesson, katika quarter ya hii ambayo tunaingia kuanzia mwezi wa 4, wa 5 na wa 6, kitabu ambacho tutaangalia ni kitabu cha Genesis. That's why I wanted us to look why Genesis. What are some of the facts which you need to understand about the book of Genesis. Number 1, Genesis is the longest of the first 5 books. We know that Moses wrote the 5 books, the Pentateuch, the law books. Among the books, Genesis is the longest. This authorship is accredited to Moses. Mwenye aliandika kitabu cha Genesis anaitwa Musa. In Genesis we see the person and the nature of God as the creator, the church, the sustainer and the redeemer. Tunakumbuka kwamba kitabu cha Mwanzo, hapa ndipo mwanzo wa kila kitu. Na katika hii kitabu cha Mwanzo, hapo ndipo tunaona Yesu kwamba yeye ndiye muumbaji. Yeye ndiye church, the church of everything. And yeye ndiye the sustainer. Pia yeye ndiye the redeemer. God created man in his own image, male and female, and blessed them. That is what we learn from the book of Genesis. Genesis has 50 chapters and 1,503 verses and 38,261 words. And the book of Genesis, it is believed that it was written between 1450 BC and 1410 BC. Those are the years between which the book of Genesis was written. Na kitabu cha Genesis tunaambiwa kwamba is the origin book, the origin of everything. Na hapo ndipo mwanzo wa kila kitu. And from the beginning of everything up to 2300 years, that's where the book of Genesis covers. From 0 years to 2300 years. Whereby Genesis chapter 1 to 11 covers 2000 years, and the remaining 300 years are covered through Genesis 12 to Genesis 50. What are the main accounts in the book of Genesis? The introduction to generations, which we get in the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 to Genesis chapter 2 verse 3. And number 2, the heaven and the earth, which are recorded in the book of Genesis chapter 2 verse 4 to the book of Genesis chapter 4 verse 26. Number 3, Adam and Eve, the story of Adam, which is also recorded in the book of Genesis chapter 5 verse 1 to Genesis chapter 6 verse 8. We also have the story of Noah, chapter 6 verse 9 to 9 verse 29. And then we have sons of Noah, Genesis 10 verse 1 to 11 verse 9. Shem, 11 verse 10 to 26. Terah, who was the father of Abraham, from the book of Genesis 11 verse 27 to Genesis 25 verse 11. Ishmael, the son to Abraham. Genesis 25 verse 12 to Genesis 25 verse 18. Isaac, Genesis 25 verse 19 to Genesis 35 verse 29. And Esau, Genesis 36 verse 1 to Genesis 37 verse 1. Lastly, Jacob and his sons, Genesis 37 verse 2 to Genesis 50 verse 26. As we have said, that this is the book of origin. Genesis is about Jesus. Jesus is our creator, sustainer, and redeemer. Genesis, as we have seen, is what was written by Moses. The Apostle John refers Jesus in the creation account, as he says in John 1 verse 1 to 4, "In the beginning there was a Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Nothing that was made without him." So in the beginning, everything was made through Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is being revealed as the sustainer, the redeemer, and the creator of the universe. All things that were made and that at once didn't exist came into existence by Jesus. The book of Genesis is the first story in scripture of both creation and redemption. In the book, this world is only official account of our origins. Genesis means beginning, from the word of Hebrew which is Bereshit, which means the beginning. Genesis gives the foundation upon which all the following scripture rests. What is the importance of the book of Genesis? It helps us to understand just who we are as human beings, i.e., we were not here by accident or chance of creation or organized mad, but we are made in the image of God. And God said, "Let us make man in our own image, according to our own likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over everything, and over everything that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Tumeumbwa kwa mfano wake. So tukiangalia kwamba kitabu cha Mwanzo kinatuambia kwamba mwanzo wa kila kitu ni nini, na tukipata kujua kwamba mwanzo wa kila kitu ni nini, na sisi tunagundua kwamba tumeumbwa pahali hatukuja kwa sababu ya accident. We were not accidentally formed. As some may say that we evolved from being the other creatures, from baboons, that we are baboons which are evolved. But Genesis here, it tells us that we were not evolved, but we were created in the image of God. That's why Genesis makes it clear to understand who we are and what we are supposed to do on this earth. Number 2, Genesis helps us to understand why our world is no longer perfect. Kitabu cha Mwanzo kinatuambia kwamba ni nini kilitendeka ambapo tunafaa kuhusu. Mbona hii nchi ambayo tunaishi kuna matatizo mengi? Mbona kuna dhambi? Why do we stay in the world which is not no longer perfect? Genesis inajibu hayo majibu yote from the book of Genesis chapter 3, the fall of human being. God created a perfect human being, na alimwambia kwamba don't ever touch the tree which is in the midst of the garden. But unfortunately, the serpent deceived Adam and Eve, na yeye akaenda akakula lile tunda ambalo Mungu alimwambia asikule. Now from there we have imperfect world where we are staying as human beings. So Genesis clearly inatuambia kwamba what happens, mbona tuko penye tupo, mbona tunapitia yale matatizo ambayo tunayapitia. Number 3, Genesis comforts us with God's promises of salvation in a world that in and of itself offers us nothing but suffering and death. Yes, tulianguka katika dhambi. Adam na Eve wamefanya dhambi, wameanguka. Biblia haiachii hapo, pia inatupatia matumaini kwamba even though they fell from the glory of God, there is hope of salvation. Even though we are living in the world of suffering, there is salvation. So the book of Genesis encourages us. It gives us hope that even though we are passing through many challenges, God is there and God will provide us salvation. And unfortunately, there is a new heart which is preparing for us for those who believe in Him. It is our way inspiring with stories of miracles such as creation paths and rainbow, judgments such as the Sodom and Gomorrah. It is also inspiring books with moving human stories of love. Kwa Biblia tunapata kuna watu ambao walikuwa wanapendana, example Jacob and Rachel. So we get the examples of people who loved each other. Example Jacob and Rachel. There is what called hatred, Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau. The Bible also it gives us incidences of birth, those people who were being given to birth. Examples, we are told how Cain was given birth, Abel, Seth, Isaac, Jacob, and Jacob was son, and many more. So death also, the book of Genesis also talks about death, how different people died in the Bible. Sarah, Rachel, Jacob, and Joseph. Those are the examples. Also, the book of Genesis talks about murder. Cain murdered Abel. Simeon and Levi, they murdered those people who committed adultery with their sister. They went there and murdered them. Forgiveness. From the book of Genesis, we also learn how to forgive others. For example, Esau and Jacob. Remember what Jacob did to Esau, but unfortunately Esau forgave him. Remember what Joseph, his brothers, did to him, but unfortunately Joseph forgave them. So we also have the ethics. What do we learn? What do we learn from the murder of Cain and Abel? Faith, the faith of Abraham, the faith of Jacob, and our patriots. We also have what we call hope and promises of the redemption. The hope and promises of the redemption. The crushing of the serpent and the promised land, which is recorded in the book of Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. That's where we have our hope. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, which says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. That is the enmity which God has put between the serpent and the human being. Furthermore, human being has been given authority to crush the head of the serpent. So that's what we call salvation, redemption from what our parents did. That is what we call redemption. So even though we are passing through a lot of challenges, the book of Genesis also is there to encourage us. So my dear friend, hope that God will guide us through this quarter as we are going to study more about the book of Genesis. Be blessed.